Today marks the 7th anniversary of the disappearance of Chinese human rights lawyer Gao Zhisheng, who helped defend Chen Guangcheng when he was imprisoned by the Communist Party. Gao was honored by a sculpture designed by Chen Weiming, a human rights activist and artist who has also been interviewed on our podcast, which you can find in this episode's description. The sculpture hangs in the Catholic University of America's Columbus School of Law. In this podcast, you will hear a statement from Gao's wife, Geng He, and Chen Guangcheng, read by our production staff.
Gao Zhisheng was abducted 7 years ago. His wife, Geng He, asks, is he dead or alive? August 13th, 2024, is the 7th anniversary of Gao Zhisheng's abduction by the Chinese Communist Party. Day and night, for 7 whole years, my family and I have asked everywhere, looked everywhere, but have never received the smallest shred of news. In the midst of despair, we have hoped and prayed, yet waited in vain for any information. China, the world calls you a great nation, and you claim to be proud of taking the responsibilities of a great nation. But do you fulfill your responsibilities for your own people? You disappear a citizen, a human rights lawyer of renown, in broad daylight for 7 years. Neither his family nor the international community have been able to determine his whereabouts. You, China, proclaim to rule the nation by the rule of law. But while a criminal can be tracked down in prison, Gao Zhisheng, an internationally known Chinese attorney and lawful citizen, is inhumanely stripped of any trace of his existence. What kind of cold and cruel nation is this? Since 2005, Gao Zhisheng has endured countless catastrophes of incarceration and inhumane torment simply for taking part in human rights activities. Before 2017, he had been put on probation for 5 years, followed by 3 years of prison. Over this time, he was brutally tortured to the point where he nearly lost the ability to speak. After prison, he was put under house arrest in his hometown in Shanxi for over 2 years. On August 13th, 2017, he was again abducted. Since that time, there has been no information at all. For us, his family, his sudden disappearances have become almost normal. Each time he has been secretly taken away by the police, we can only anxiously await to receive some news, even though the news is always heartbreaking. Now, however, I have fallen into the depths of despair. How many times I have wept in the night, or awoken from a nightmare, just hoping to hear his voice, even a sentence, or just a word. For these 19 years, Gao Zhisheng has lost the most precious thing in life, his freedom. His every day has been detained, disappeared, arrested, in prison, being beaten and persecuted, under house arrest, in a darkness without end. For 19 years, he has not had one day that regular people enjoy. As for me and our children, in 2009, we escaped to America. From then on, we have been apart, now 15 years. Day and night for 15 years, I have been tormented with the anxiety of missing him, and our children have grown up in suffering and confusion. And still we have no news. I often, by myself, cry, tears streaming down my face, thinking of him all alone with no one to help him. My heart feels like it has been cut with a knife. Gao Zhisheng turns 60 this year. A third of his life has been wasted in darkness and persecution. When I think of his life, my heart feels like it has been ripped apart, and I am almost unable to breathe. I can hardly bear to look at his picture, and the words and videos of him make me feel like my heart has split open. Now, his laugh and his smile grow faint and blurred. One day I fear I will be unable to remember what he looks like. I have no more strength for words. In the last 15 years, I have spoken countless times in all kinds of places, calling out on behalf of my husband. But his fate seems to be akin to falling into the depths of an ocean without a trace. Now, I call on the Chinese Communist Party government again. I don't ask you to release him, and I don't dare hope for you to give us his freedom. I only beg you to tell me, is he still alive? Even if he has only one breath remaining, I would use my life to protect him. Geng He, August 11th, 2024.
Now you will hear a statement from Chen Guangcheng, read by our producer, which can also be found at humanrights.catholic.edu. August 13th, 2024 marks the 7th anniversary of the disappearance of Gao Zhisheng, a human rights lawyer who has been nominated for multiple Nobel Peace Prizes. Gao was a renowned lawyer in China. However, in 2005, he became the target of suppression and persecution by the Chinese Communist Party. He had been helping vulnerable groups safeguard their rights and defending Christians who suffered religious persecution, and therefore was regarded as an enemy of the CCP. In September 2005, the Chinese Communist Party ordered local authorities to abduct human rights activist Gao Zhisheng and I in Beijing and illegally detained us back in our hometowns. In 2006, Gao and his friends drove to Shandong province to support me and were beaten by the CCP's minions. The t-shirts Gao's friends wore with my face on them were torn from their bodies and thrown away by the CCP's lackeys. Shortly after I was sentenced by the Communist Party, Gao was also arrested at his relative's home and brought to Beijing for detention. He was later sentenced to 3 years in prison with 5 years of probation. However, not long after Gao walked out of court, he was secretly kidnapped by the CCP during his probation period, detained in a black jail, and tortured. For details, please read Dark Knight, Black Hood, and Gang Kidnapping, written by Gao, published by China Aid. Later, after constant pressure from the international community, the Communist Party was forced to let Gao appear briefly. He even gave an interview to the Associated Press. Just days before his sentence was set to expire, the Communist Party shamelessly imprisoned him again. During the next 3 years, which he mostly spent in solitary confinement, he suffered all kinds of torture. He lost nearly all of his teeth and was unable to eat normally. After Gao served 3 years in prison, the Communist Party sent him back to his hometown in northern Shaanxi and illegally detained him again. There he continued to write articles to advocate for the persecuted, to use his influence to promote China's democratization, and to call on the international community to pay attention to China's legal system. On August 13, 2017, lawyer Gao Zhisheng suddenly disappeared. He seemingly evaporated, with no news about his whereabouts since then. Gao's family has called the police many times, asking the CCP authorities to find him and inform them of his whereabouts. However, the CCP has refused to investigate his disappearance. The brutal persecution of the famous human rights lawyer Gao Zhisheng in China is representative of the situation of human rights activists in the country. It has also made more people understand the evils of the Chinese Communist Party. I believe that Gao was kidnapped by the Communist Party and has been detained for 7 years. His whereabouts are unknown, and whether or not he is alive or dead is uncertain. Such things happen in modern Chinese society and are unacceptable. It not only marks the shameless obscenity of the Chinese Communist Party and the complete gangsterization of the entire CCP regime, but the lack of justice for Gao is also a blemish on the free world and even all mankind. If the Communist Party can use such criminal methods against Gao, then it can use the same methods against anyone. Because of the CCP, law in China is merely a tool to rule the people. Law does not ensure social justice, nor limit government authority. Kind-hearted people from all walks of life around the world, governments of democratic countries, and international human rights organizations need to seriously consider how to effectively respond to the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party to all human civilization and culture. Making a concerted effort to raise our voices and demand the unconditional release of lawyer Gao Zhisheng from the Chinese Communist regime will be a landmark case for whether Western countries truly pay attention to universal human rights. It has been 7 years since lawyer Gao Zhisheng, China's conscience, has disappeared. Every minute of his and his family's lives have felt like years. The torture they suffer is unimaginable. I call on friends from all walks of life to pay close attention to lawyer Gao Zhisheng. In the case of Gao's kidnapping and disappearance, the free world can fully understand the evil nature of the Chinese Communist Party. Let us work together to force the CCP to give back human rights lawyers' freedoms until lawyer Gao is truly free and there are no more disappearances of lawyers in Communist China.